Folks, what's up? Sorry, I think I'm 3 minutes late. Oh, I made it. Coffee took a little while to get going. Jeff Rupert, right out of the gate, is in the top chat. Thanks, Jeff. Well, how you guys doing this week? Everybody good out there? I hope you're all well. Jeff says he's remodeling. I gotta turn up my screen brightness here. One sec. Remodeling, 99%. Sorry not to catch you live. Leaving for Italy for 2 weeks. Well, let's all just congratulate Jeff. That sounds fantastic. I want to go to Italy for 2 weeks. So keep everyone in line until I get back. All right, buddy. Hey, have a great trip, Jeff. That sounds really great. I would love to go to Italy for 2 weeks. I wonder where you're going in the north, the south. You guys know I've done some tours for overseas artists. Japan, France, always wanted to do a tour for an Italian artist. Matter of fact, when I got my French gig in 2013, I was supposed to maybe be going to, it looked like I was going to Italy that year to play with an artist named, I think her name is Laura Passini, something like that. She was described to me as being kind of like the Alanis Morissette of Italy or something. And anyway, it looked like that was happening. And then that didn't happen. I was like, oh. And then not too long after that, I got an audition to go play with this French artist, Mylène Farmer, and that worked out. So my plans all shifted. But anyways, blah, blah, blah. I was, the Italian tours, the food is supposed to be just off the charts, off the chain. How is the constellation at copying fuzz face clean tone, says Tom. Tom, I don't have a good answer for that yet. I assume it's going to be great. You're talking about this pedal right here, and I need to explore that myself. So, but I am going to maybe know that by later on today because I want to plug this in. Mainly, I've got a bunch of treble boosters on my desk here because I started, I took the old AC30 that's sitting right there, right there. And as you can see, it's got mics on it. And I mic'd it up yesterday and turned it on 10. Yes, I did. And hit it with a bunch of these treble boosters and stuff. So I didn't actually use the Constellation, though. I used you guys have seen the Cornish one that I've got sitting here. It's like, it's a cable right there. Anyway, Pete Cornish double treble booster thing. And the divided by 13 that I have here, which actually I think this one overall is my favorite. It's the Dynaranger, which I've had this pedal for years. But anyway, I'm making a video about treble boosters and whether or not they're the most underrated guitar effect ever, because it's the combination of treble booster and amps that sounded like sort of not so good, like the AC30 normal channel needed the treble booster to really work. It was like a Band-Aid kind of fix, the old Rangemaster, for amps that were just too dark and woolly. And with this, it was, really a combination of the pedal and an amp that was dark and woolly that made for Black Sabbath and Brian May and Rory Gallagher and Judas Priest and stuff like that. So I wanted to make a video about the treble booster, maybe the most underrated effect, and also about how that combination was responsible for some of the greatest sort of hard rock and metal tones ever created. And then people kind of moved away from it. But when you think about it, there's no reason why it shouldn't be, some young band today could take a treble booster and run it into, it sounds really good into anything dark, or even neutral, and has a just a cool blended tone the pedal and the amp make for this thing that just could end up being the basis, like Brian May, right? It was the basis for an entire career of guitar sounds. So interesting to me. But Jeff says he's oh wow, your daughter's getting married. He's going to Venice, Florence, Tuscany. Wow, dude, that sounds like trip of a lifetime. Well, congratulations to your daughter and your whole family. That's going to be a really incredible trip, I'm sure. Venice, Florence, Tuscany. Everybody, cheers! Cheers to Jeff. That's it. That's really exciting. Have a great time. Okay, so I will get into the Constellation and the clean tones. I want to be able to give you a full report on the fuzz and stuff like that too, because this thing, for those that don't know, the Constellation by Crazy Tube Circuits, I love Crazy Tube Circuits pedals. They make such great pedals, but it's got a whole bunch of different settings, including a Rangemaster setting, as well as a bunch of different fuzzes in there. So all on a switch. So what a killer little pedal that you could put on a board and maybe cover a whole bunch of different fuzz tones and a treble boost. Forget about it. It's like so cool in one pedal. So could be the answer to a lot of people's, probably not a lot of people know about this pedal yet, but what a neat thing, right? So I'm gonna give it I got to make a demo of just that pedal, but I also want to use it in my in my video about treble boosters. And on to that note, John here has a question. He says, hope. Oh no, that's different guy. John says, hope the rain wasn't too crazy. Cheers from Orange County. It wasn't too crazy up here. It was okay. Hope you're okay down there in Orange County. James says, what couldn't you recommend a good weird pedal for some tonal inspiration? Maybe this one's a good candidate because fuzz is always a great thing for, to me, treble boost fuzz, you know, to get some stuff going. So maybe this something different that you don't have, you know, Crazy Tube Circuits Constellation. Once again, the Dyna Ranger is great too from Divided By. Really great pedal. These ones have like a range knob on them so that you can like, there's a boost knob, controls the amount of treble boost, and then 1 through 5 gets progressively fatter. And I like 1 and 2. After that, it gets a little woolly for me, but maybe could be cool for Sabbath or something on like the third position. But this pedal sounds really, really, really good. I've always liked it. Let's see. What else we got here? Just getting a text from Mr. Doug Aldrich. I'm just going to answer him about something. Okay. I'm going to help Doug make a video for something, actually. It's for a pedal of his. So we're going to do a video together coming up. So that's pretty fun. Looking forward to that. He's going to swing by this week. Cole Wilson is in the top chat, and he says, what do you have in your acoustic collection? Let's show some acoustic love. Thanks, Cole, for doing the top chat. I appreciate that. Acoustics, I've got the Martin you see hanging back there. I've got a Larave that's a similar dreadnought style. I've got a Takamine that's got a cedar top on it, and it's kind of more like a double or triple O shape, I guess. Orchestra model. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what you would call the body shape on it, but it sounds great plugged in. What else have I got for acoustics? I've got a Sheryl Crow Gibson that's basically a country western, which is kind of like a slightly more ornate J50 style. I don't know. It's its own thing. It's a dreadnought, really, right? I guess with the kind of the inlays in it that aren't dots. You know, it's got bigger inlays in it. It's a very nice guitar. And I've got a Gibson J180 as well. That's kind of like the Pete Townsend, sort of more like jumbo body with a Fishman in it. Don't play that guitar a lot, but it's a good guitar. I should use it more than I do. What else do I have for acoustics? That's what's ringing a bell right now. I think maybe I've got a Washburn that I used to use with Chris Cornell that actually Chris used to use too. That's really cool. It's got a Bags pickup in it, but the neck kind of warped and that screwed it up. It was made by somebody in the USA Washburn custom shop, and they put an old LR Bags pickup system in it that sounds great. That was like James Taylor's favorite pickup or something in the 70s or 80s or something. And they said, try this. And I used that guitar quite a bit, and Chris liked it. So he used to use it in a while. In 2009, I lent it to him, and he would play his acoustic set, like in the middle of our set with it. That's a really cool guitar, but you can't really play up very high on it because the neck, it got that dive in the end. You know how that happens on acoustic sometimes where the neck joins the body. There's a lift. I could probably get it worked on. Because pretty good sounding guitar too. It's a nice, spruce top, like thin bracing, all the right stuff. Kind of a cool one-off guitar. Robert is in the top chat. He says he wants to get a matching cab for the PT15, but in the meantime, he already has a Power Cab Plus. Will the PT15 sound good through the Power Cab in flat mode? Haven't really tried that, so I don't know. It's possible, just with the IRs, you're saying, and you're essentially using the Power Cab. If you like the sound of the Power Cab for other things, for other modeling units that you run into it should be really similar. You're just running, at that point, it's serving as a full range cabinet, right? Kind of PA style. Thanks all you guys for doing the top chat. I appreciate that. I do. And what else we got here? Let's see. I'm getting some messages, and I just want to make sure that there's not something wrong with this. Oh, God. This stupid thing is, sorry guys, just one sec here. Just want to make sure that everything's cool. Oh, somebody was in the top chat that I'm missing here, and I'm getting a text about it. Something not showing up at the top. So evidently, Lost Smoke was in the top chat, and he said, "What is transparent tone?" That's a tough one to answer. Transparent tone. What do you guys define transparent tone as? I don't know. I don't know how to answer that really. I guess when I think about like a Klon pedal, for instance, it's got a mid boost to it, or a Tube Screamer has a mid bump to it. But if you turn on a Boss GE7 EQ that's just got a level slider and then a bunch of EQ, if you leave the EQ flat, it's transparent, right? And then you can turn up the EQ and boost into the amp. It's a way to get a drive that's not colored by some overdrive circuit. So I guess that, I don't know. Transparent tone. I don't know how else I would just say it. SD Design is in the top chat. All you guys are doing the top chat. Wow, that's amazing. Thanks, guys. He says, support your local musicians, show your love, and buy them a coffee. I appreciate that. The dude abides. Thank you, SD Design. Tom says, pedal loop switcher or simple MIDI switch for mostly MIDI capable pedals like 2H9, Timeline, Mobius with only 1 or 2 analog drives. Good question. I would probably still get a simple switcher that has a couple loops in it. No reason why not. I'm not really a fan of just doing just the MIDI pedal and then all the MIDI pedals are MIDI'd up to that. And there's no reason to do it these days. You can get a loop switcher. I mean, even something as simple as the little Boss guy that's got, 2 loops in it, or 3 loops or something like that, right? You get something like that and it would control all your MIDI effects, as well as you'd be able to put your couple drives in the loop of that thing, with the bonus of then there's also the Boss effects included that are in that thing. Whatever, somebody give me the name of that thing, the small botcher, not the ES8, but the other one, ES3 maybe it's called, something like that. That could be a great thing, for a board like that that's only got a couple drives on it, I would think. And then if you need anything else, like a compressor or something, it's in that Boss unit. So I think that thing might fit your needs. Check it out. BS3, I think it's called, right? You guys to answer in the chat there, maybe give them a heads up. I think that's the thing I'm talking about. Dan says, word up from rainy Minneapolis. What's up out there? I know it wasn't raining a little bit on the way here, just sprinkling, just a little bit, and that's it. Views on Seymour Duncan 170 power amp with cab sim and decent IR setup. That's from Ray. I haven't tried that 170 thing. They were supposed to send me one, and I was going to make a video with it, but we just never hooked up on it. It could be really cool. There's a bunch of those little things out. Moore makes them. Who else makes those little power amps? Electro Harmonics makes the caliber 22 and 44, I think they call them. I think that any of those would be, probably pretty cool with a little, like you're saying, with cab sim and decent IR. So you're saying use it with like a full range cabinet, right? Yeah. I tried a little, like the QSC monitors are pretty nice. I'm a big fan of the Atomic, which has built-in power amp. So you might want to look at that too. It's a little more dough. I think they're around $900, $1,000. They're not that cheap, but that Atomic wedge, the what looks like a monitor wedge, if you want to go with an IR full range setup, they sound just great to me. Really flat. They sound like a studio monitor to me, and they've got a huge sweet spot because of the coaxial sort of with the coaxial design. So they're like a nice little portable powered wedge that would be great to have if you ever do acoustic gigs or something like that, and you need to go and hear your vocal really well, and you don't want to rely on whatever's at a bar or something like that. You can just carry that thing with you. It's not that big, it's not that heavy, and it's got 1,000 watts, and it sounds great. I was so blown away with it actually the first time I plugged it in. This is going back to 2014 or something. I think there's a demo on my channel where I'm like, how do I demo full room speaker. It's next to impossible. But what I did was I plugged my PT100 into the, I think the Torpedo Live load box. And then I came out of that and I went into the powered monitor, and then I mic'd it with a real accurate kind of reference mic, sort of reference quality mic, which was a TC30K from Earthworks. But anyway, I just put the mic like in front of the monitor, and it actually sort of worked. It like sounds, you kind of get the idea of what the cabinet sounds like in the room. So watch that video and listen to it. It might be more than you want to spend, but once you get a Seymour Duncan 170 and IR cab sims, I don't know, maybe just check it out. I'm a fan of those things. They sound really good. The Atomic Reactor, I think maybe they were called, wedge style monitor thing. We got Ben Coombs in the house. Chris Cam says, is YouTube making it more difficult to find these live streams, or am I just getting dumber? I don't know. YouTube's a little tough these days as far as their algorithms and stuff, so it could be different. Who knows? Some people complaining about that out there in internet land. For sure. Swapped out a Creamback 65, says John, for a 75 on your suggestion, liking the mid-range a lot more now. That's cool. Yeah, probably less prominent mids, right? A little flatter. The 75 to me sounds really balanced. You know, it's like, I wish it sounded a little more like a Greenback when I'm on the dirty channel of an amp, but other than that, it's great. It's like the 75 is just really, really solid all around speaker, I find. You know, like a little, if you're like, I like V30s, but only for one thing, and I like Greenbacks, but only for one thing, and then I need something that sounds good, clean too, and I just need a good sounding speaker that sounds great across the board, the Creamback 75. Mark my words. Solid speaker for, certainly for a 112, you know, just a really, really good all-round speaker, I think, which is tough to find. Okay. Somebody's talking about tea here, an organic tea. Drink organic tea. Otherwise, the first time the pesticides are rinsed off is in your glass, says Leo. I believe that to be true. I basically, you know, drink and eat organic everything if I can. I don't like the idea of pesticides on fruit and stuff. I don't know about you guys. This is taking a turn, this conversation, away from guitar. But yeah, like blueberries and stuff, I don't want to eat those if I know they've been sprayed with a bunch of, you know, I don't know. I just, you know, especially when it comes to fruit, things that seem like they would soak up a chemical that's meant to kill things. You know what I mean? Just makes sense to me. I don't want to have that. Gary says, to your ears, Pete, what's the main differences between Greenbacks and Creambacks? Thinking of experimenting with one of my cabs. Well, back on to speakers. So the main difference is with a Greenback, it's always got that warm, woody kind of thing that sounds so great driven. So did you guys watch that? I put up a video this week of the PT15 clean channel, and I mic'd the Greenback in the cab. You know, in retrospect, I guess I could have tried miking the V30 too, because for clean sounds in particular, what you might notice is, I think the video sounds great, and I'm very happy with the sounds, but what you might notice is they're a little on the sort of laid back, darker side, even when the bright switch on the amp is on. That's the Greenback. You know, they just don't have like a forward bright quality, generally speaking, which makes them great for drive, because they're a little more, you know, they do have a little bit of a grain in the top end that's kind of always there, like a little, you know, a little rasp, you know, it's part of the Greenback thing, I guess, except when they get really broken in. But the clarity that you get out of something like a Creamback 75, which has a heavier magnet, the difference being the 35 ounce or 30 or 35 ounce magnet as opposed to a 40 ounce magnet on the back of the speaker, the heavier magnet sort of gives you more bass and treble, I find, more like of a balanced thing, whereas the smaller magnet is going to give you a more forward mid character with a little less full sound. Now, if we're talking about a Creamback 65, it's still got the smaller magnet. So I assume you're talking about the difference between maybe you're talking about, if you're talking about the difference between a Greenback and a Creamback 65, now we're talking about sort of apples to apples, sort of, but the Creamback 65 has more of a forward mid character than a Greenback to me. A little too much, although I like the impulse responses from Celestion of that speaker. The Creamback 65, for some things, they sound just great, that forward mid, because lots of mids can be great sometimes. can really help your guitar to sit in a mix, and it can be a great thing. But just overall, I find the greenback is still my favorite when it comes Celestion when it comes to driven tones. I just like greenbacks a lot. The 75 though, we're talking about once again the heavier magnet, a little bit flatter mids, a little bit fuller bass and treble, a little more full range sound overall, which can be really nice for clean sounds. So yeah, there you go. Let's see. Craig says he just plugged his guitar with EMG pickups into the top jack on a UA Apollo. Volume was at 0 and nothing was playing. I hit the strings, noticed the mistake. Any damage to the Apollo or guitar? I don't understand, my friend. Sorry. Into the top jack on a UA Apollo. I'm sure you're fine, man. Nothing is going to be wrong with your stuff. I can pretty much guarantee that. Killer Rose Pedal by the Rose Pedal demo, by the way, says Gary Walker. Thanks, Gary. Great sounding pedal, especially with the expression pedal. Thanks. Yeah, it's kind of fun. With an expression pedal, you can morph between, 2 different delay settings on it, or anything you want. You could just use it to ramp up the feedback up to 100% and get like a crazy oscillation or something, and then control it using the pedal. Saw Landau the other night, and he kind of does stuff like that. I think he uses just a timeline. A little known thing about a Strymon pedals is many times when you stand on the on-off switch, it ramps the feedback up to infinite repeat kind of, and then you can get a crazy kind of regeneration going. So if you guys don't know that about, if you've got an L capstan or a timeline, probably the Brigadier does it, I bet too. Just stand on the, it's a cool thing, and it'll ramp up the repeats and get all crazy, and it's a fun thing. And Landau uses, I think that's how he does it. I couldn't see his feet the other day, but he was doing stuff like that at his gig the other day. Anybody go see Landau this week? Anybody go see Mike? He was awesome as always. He played Friday and Saturday. I went on Friday. Saturday was more, I think, Burning Water tunes, like the with David singing and stuff, and Jimmy playing bass. It was Alan Hertz. Is that his? I can't remember the drummer's last name. Great drummer, and Travis Carlton on bass, and Hazy Jane, Karen, Mike's significant other, of course, singing, and some songs. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. I ate a baked potato. Thoughts on playing the Brian May Red Special clone? Like, dislike? So it's great for doing that thing. It's amazing. I would like to have one. I was thinking it'd be fun to have one, but that's a little bit more like maybe have Sir build one or something. That's maybe just like a 24 3/4 scale, maybe T style body or something like that, but painted red with a black pick guard, something like that. Maybe even like a junior style, but he doesn't have anything like that, so it wouldn't happen. I guess I'd have to do like a T, but maybe to try and see if they would do a short scale, but then get the the Burns pickups in it and get a tremolo on it and stuff and all that stuff. Probably sound pretty close, and with a little bit more reasonable size neck, because that's the only thing. The neck on it is crazy. It's huge. Really, really big neck. But I'm using it in this video for the treble boost. Yesterday, like I said, I cranked up the AC30 and plugged in the treble boosters, and I did a double tracked Tie Your Mother Down rhythm guitar thing in here yesterday, where I had the click just banging in my headphones at 110 dB because the amp was right there, and I needed to double track the guitars to make it sound like the intro on the record of Tie Your Mother Down. So anyway, I'll put out that video. I'll try and get it. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I don't want to. I've got so many other videos to make for pedals and things like that I got to get to. So I'm just going to do a quick kind of like, play through a few cool riffs, probably everything from some Judas Priest to Iron Man to, anything I can find that, was done with a treble booster. I'll just play a few riffs with similar rigs. The treble boosters sound great into a Marshall normal channel too, like a Plexi style, 1959 style or 1987 style normal input, which normally is so dark and just kind of useless without any kind of pedal in front of it. But you put a treble booster into there, and it's a cool sound that you can't get by just plugging into the bright channel on a Marshall and turning it up. It's a different sound. and it's the sound of all the early Judas Priest and stuff, and it's so cool. And yeah, and similar, Tony Iommi did it, same thing, but with Laney's, I guess, and a Range Master that was modded, I think. So anyway, great sounds, mid-range, rich, driven, clear, and gainy. Oh, what else have we got here with you guys? I'm gonna move down in the chat because I'm far behind. Chicago Rock Fan says, Pete, as a novice guitar player, wondering if you can talk a little about effects, when to use loop versus front, any trick to order of effects. Well, you always want to run gain effects pretty much for the most part in front of the amp. So any kind of pedals that do distortion or drive in front. Compression should come first, before drives, because in generally speaking, because drive pedals create noise, and putting a compressor after them is going to bump up the noise floor substantially. So a compressor is great up close to the front of your pedal chain, if not the first pedal. A buffer's nice to have somewhere close to the beginning of your pedal chain, but if you've got a pedal that is germanium, something like this, or one of the treble boosters, or certainly a fuzz face, you want to put that first in line in front of anything else, because it wants to be connected directly to the guitar, because the guitar pickups are part of the sound. It's like one big circuit when you turn on a fuzz face and your guitar pickups. Then you can roll down the volume on the guitar and you get this magical, sparkly, clean thing that doesn't happen when the pedal's off. So fuzzes are good for not just fuzz, but clean sound if they're germanium. What else? And then after that comes your mod stuff. Phaser I like to put up front, usually in front of drives. That's the one kind of mod, Univibe or Phaser. And then after the drives, generally, then I'm going to go into delay, but sometimes a chorus first if I use chorusing, and then delay, and then reverb last. Now, any kind of time-based effects, if you want them to sound more controlled, if you tend to use pedals for all your drive, you can run everything in front of the amp. If your amp's set clean, there's no reason actually to use loops, I find. And I kind of like the sound of running reverb and delay and stuff in front of clean amps, because it's a little more pronounced. You're running it into the preamp of the amp, and it's getting a little bit driven and compressed in there, and it tends to enhance the sound of the effects in a great way, I think. And this is the sound of many great records, and it's David Gilmour, or certainly lots of guitar players that ran everything in front of clean amps. Gilmour is probably a great primary example. But if you use amp distortion channels on a driven amp, you want to run those time-based effects. Generally speaking, delay and reverb and stuff like that in the effects loop, because it's going to sound cleaner. And those types of effects, if you run them into distortion, delay, reverb, and that kind of thing into the front of a distorted amplifier, the distortion just blows up the delay and the reverb, and it sounds out of control. Now, it could be a good thing. It just depends on what you're going for. If you're going for extremely crazy, like sort of maybe shoegaze, noisy, avant-garde kind of stuff, that can be cool. But if you want to play a solo and have articulation and have delay repeats that are articulated and stuff like that, and reverb that sounds spacious and all that, and it's clear with your overdriven solo, you need to run those effects in the loop of your amp. So that's it. Phil says, got a Wampler. He's up in the top chat. Thanks, Phil. He says, got a Wampler Plexi Deluxe pedal. Has pre and post gain. The post is supposedly a Marshall circuit, and the pre is a Tube Screamer circuit. Oh, that's cool. Pre and post gain. Cool. So it does it all in one pedal. That's pretty neat. Never tried that thing. I'll have to ask Brian about that. Sounds like, running a Tube Screamer into the front of a Marshall. Great classic combo. And I can see why he calls it the Deluxe. Who else have we got here? Let's see. David says he just received his first Sir. He says it's an Alt T with the added forearm contour. That sounds nice, and a few other custom specs. So fun to play. Awesome, man. Enjoy. They're good guitars. Thornbucker's in those guitars. Really versatile. Lots of tones in there on that 5-way switch on an Alt T for sure. And Catherine's joining me on the coffee. Join me, please. Everybody get a coffee. Helps me talk faster. It's kind of sad. Mine's almost half gone. I feel like I got nobody else here to make it for me. So Once it's gone, and then I'll just be uncaffeinated. Hi from Denmark, says Mac. What's up? I love Denmark. Great place. Great place. L. Scott Music says, hello, Pete. Staying dry? Yeah, I am. Happy May 24th, long weekend from Ontario, Canada, says Saul. What's up, Saul? And let's see, Mr. Cordson is in Italy, Rome. What's up? Had fun in Rome. Remember tripping around Rome one day with my old friend Yogi when I was there playing with Chris Cornell. We had a nice day. We went to the Vatican, and then we tried to go to the Sistine Chapel, but it was closed. It was hot. I remember that day. What's that Blue Sur, says Peter. The Blue Sur is a guitar I've had for a long time. Actually, I've had it for over 10 years. I just haven't used it a lot. It has a neck on it I'm not really crazy about, so they're going to actually make me a new neck for it because it's very thin. But as legend has it, I think it was originally Peter Frampton's, one of Frampton's Surs that he had for a minute. Maybe he didn't like the neck. I don't know. But the guitar went back, and then they had it in the shop, and I needed a guitar. When I started playing with Don Henley, I needed a guitar that was tuned to D for a couple songs, like tuned down a whole step. So I took the guitar and put it in D, and I used it with Don for the next 6 years like that. And the guitar never came out of that tuning. And that was the guitar I would play on a couple different songs. So long story short, I never used it that much. But I discovered it has a really, really great sound. And the only thing I'm just not crazy about is that wide. It's kind of an odd neck. I don't know why people would have, somebody would have ordered it with that neck, because it's quite wide and thin. Like, my neck on my Sur is the even C slim on my Sur signature model, and this neck is quite a bit thinner than that, which is, the even C slim is a real. I mean, it's not, it's kind of like when you think about a standard kind of C modern Strat neck. It's similar to. It's not super slim, but it is somewhat slim. The neck on the blue guitar is just wide and flat and kind of. So anyway, I want to get the 60s C standard carve, I think, and maybe get a 9 to 12 radius. That's what I have on my white Sur Classic, which is, I think, back there on the couch. And it's a really, really nice neck. If nobody's ever tried a 9 to 12 radius, it's slightly flatter than the 10 to 14 that they do on a lot of their guitars. The 9 to 12 has just a great kind of playable, still feels a little more vintage, but it's really nice on a if you want a guitar to feel a little bit more like a sort of, vintagey 60s thing. Somebody's up there, Saul. Oh, it's Saul. He's in Ontario in the top chat. Guitar Nerd slow down. Guitar Nerd finally landed from CD Baby. What an amazing album, amazing production, dude. Thanks. Need to get it signed. When can I come over? Maybe I'll be up in Ontario sometime. And that's awesome that you like it. That album was really Guitar Nerd, like my first attempt at producing something myself, really, and mixing, and three of the songs on there were mixed by Bob Clearmountain, so that helps. But yeah, he did an amazing job on he mixed Big Mistake and Homage and one other song. Forgetting the other song that Bob mixed right now, but maybe 10th Street, I think. And they do sound really nice with his mixes. That guy can mix, just about anything and do an incredible job. So yeah. Anyways, but thanks for getting it, man. I appreciate that. And I'd be happy to sign it for you. Let's meet sometime somewhere, and I'll do that for you. Have you put your HX Stomp on your board yet? No, I was just actually talking. I don't actually have one right now, so I'm getting one next week, I think, an HX Stomp, and I am going to try it on my board. Laura Pacini, says the fellow in Rome, Mr. Cordson. Yes, that's right. Laura Pacini was the artist that I was maybe going to play with in Italy, and then the gig didn't end up happening. She ended up using an all Italian band, I believe, for that tour. But anyway, HX Stomp, hope to get one soon. Hope to get one next week so that I can have it on my board, use it for delay and stuff like that. And then also maybe try, like having my pedal board be a sort of all modeling rig if I ever needed that for something, that I could have a bank of sounds on there that would have amp modeling and then just come right out of my pedal board into, with the HX Stomp on there and go direct or whatever. Kind of a neat idea, I think, for backup or, last minute something or other where you can't bring an amp or something. that type of thing. Anybody heard of updates coming for the aux, says Keith. I haven't. That's a great question. I would love to know. Like more cabs and stuff would be a neat thing for sure. I totally agree. Can't get my gem to stay in tune, says Jasco. Probably it's knife edges on the tremolo is my guess. After a while, those like Floyd's or any kind of 2-point floating thing, that if the knife edges aren't, if they're sticky, then and the trem moves, it will lock one way or the other and kind of be out of tune. Something a good tech can do is with a grinder, is sharpen those knife edges on the tremolo and make sure that's beyond just a setup where it's like, just if the intonation's off or something, it can seem like the guitar is out of tune all the time when it actually just won't ever get in tune. But yeah, that might be something you might want to consider, is having a good tech look at the knife edges on the trem. It's interesting. It's like many times these bridges from the factory, like I found with the Floyd that we put on my Sir Classic. We put, I have a Classic that's got a original Floyd with no fine tuners on it. And that bridge right from the factory, right from Floyd Rose or whoever makes them for Floyd Rose, it needed the knife edges ground. It wouldn't stay in tune right. So John knows how to do that. So he did it, but it's a little bit of a nightmare because part of the problem is somebody else is up in the top chat, Modern Vintage. I'll get your question in just a second here. Sorry, I missed it. What was my point? Oh yeah, it's if you're gonna like say use that bridge on a bunch of guitars and make a run, you can't be taking like a half an hour to polish the knife edges on every single bridge, or it's just man hours in a guitar factory that sucks. So you got to get them from the factory that are dialed in. It was something on the new bridge, the Wilkinson bridge, that we made sure that they knew, like, hey, we want the knife edges, like if we're gonna get like a couple hundred of these bridges at a time or something, we want not extra work to do. So anyway, Wilkinson, they're right. They come from the factory, just terrific. But we made sure to make that point. But just over time, if you use the guitar for a number of years and you find, oh, my guitar is not staying in tune anymore, that's probably what it is. It's probably those knife edges that need some attention, just because they can just wear over time. So Modern Vintage up in the top chat. Thank you, sir. He says, is the T-Rex replicator worth $800 versus UAD plugins? What is the T-Rex replicator? I would have assumed it was some sort of tape delay or something like that. Let me take a look here. T-Rex replicator. Is it a real tape delay? Yeah, it's that tape delay in a pedal. $800? No. I'm gonna go with no. Just that's crazy, right? I think T-Rex is maybe gone out of business now, right? I mean, that's a lot of dough, dude. T-Rex replica. I've never played one. I don't know. Tape echoes. Okay, a Benson. I played Kevin Sir's Benson a while ago, and it's magical. It really is. Actually, it sounds. You just get lost in that delay. It sounds. It's like, well, how much better can it be than all these Benson pedals that we have? And the Benson pedals that I've tried, I did a bunch of demos of them recently. They all sound really cool, but most of the ones, like the Boonar and like all these different ones, they're great. There's something magic about the real one, but it is like, I think Kevin paid like $4 or $5 grand for it. I mean, they're so expensive. So I guess $800 looks like a bargain next to that, right? A tube tape echo, I guess, from Full Tone is probably about the same price, $800, $850. I don't know. I mean, it seems like a lot for, in practical use. I've never used one in a live rig because there's so many pedals now that can get you so close. Like, are you going to notice maybe, I don't know. I'm contradicting myself right now because I didn't even want to feel like Kevin's Benson sounded that much more. But there is something about plugging into it. You plug in and you say, oh my God, that sounds, and you just sit there and start playing, and half an hour later, you're just still playing, and you're like, so that's kind of worth the price, I guess. I can't describe it. It's just it adds to the sound of the amp, as opposed to just doing delay on an already good sound. You're like, oh, that's cool. It's like, oh, everything sounds like my whole rig just got better. I don't know. So it's interesting. And kind of in the same way that one of these treble boosters, does like that thing where it's like they add to like it's such a big part of the rig, And I feel like people that use Echoplexes and stuff, whether it was Eddie or Jimmy Page or whatever, good tape delay, you know, it was a big part of their sound. Like it added to the rig. It wasn't just like using delay with the rig. It was like, no, it was like an integral part of the tone that actually, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? The difference? Am I making sense? Guitar weirdos. We're so weird. The things that we think about. It's crazy. How does Andy Simmons get such a... Andy Timmons, excuse me. Andy Simmons. That's like a combination of Gene Simmons and Andy Timmons. How does Andy Timmons get such a good tone? I'll get to that in just 1 second here. There's somebody else in the top chat that's not showing up. So I've got Britt here. She's like sending me top chat messages that for some reason aren't showing in the top chat. It's weird. I don't know. But anyway, she's on it. She's my moderator. Casper in the top chat. He says, Sir PT, gold or blue? No love for the gold. I love my gold one. It's in my storage space right now, and I need to go get it, and I should be using it. You know, it's actually the only one that I don't yet have a Wilkinson bridge on. So you just kind of reminded me, I need to go to Sir anyway, and I should take that guitar to get the new bridge put on it when I do that. So thanks for reminding me. I might try and do that sometime this week. And run out there. But the gold one's sexy, man. I mean, there's no doubt. I love all three colors. I mean, and I play one for a while, and then the blue has kind of become my main one. This one right here. I broke a string on it the other day, so I got to change. But this guitar is really the one that I use, you know, most of the time. But every time I pick up, you know, the black one, I'm like, oh, this is awesome too. You know, and the gold one, I don't know. It's a tough decision. It's a tough decision. But how does Andy Timmons get such a good tone? Well, okay, one of the things that Andy does that maybe not everybody knows is he uses a Carl Martin compressor that's on all the time, I do believe. I'm pretty sure. Now, I hope I'm not wrong about that, but I think it's on all the time. And he's got his own model now with them that's like a takeoff on their standard. You know, the Carl Martin was always a great sounding compressor, very, very musical. I used it on my board for a long time. Terrific sound. And that was a big part of his tone. He kind of has a mid forward, fairly compressed tone. So that's one thing. And it works great for his style. And he uses Lone Stars, I think, for his clean sound mainly, which is a nice sounding amplifier, especially on the clean channel. I'm not sure what he uses for dirt now, but he's all boogie all the time. I really like his sound. I've always liked his sound too, and he's such an amazing guitar player, honestly. One of the other things he does is he uses a timeline delay, and he uses kind of not a like 250 and 500 setting, but it's more like maybe a dotted eighth and a quarter or something like that. You know, he doesn't like the delays to, I think when it's like a 2/3 delay and then does that make sense? Like, you know what I mean? It's either triplet and quarter note, or there's some stuff about this online, and he's always got that echo going all the time. So that gives him some space in his sound. And it's, you know, it's a good thing. So those are a couple things. The compressor is a big element though. So look into a Carl Martin compressor or his model, because that's a big part of his tone, but really so much of it is in his hands, you know, to be honest, because he's just such a musical, great guitar player and a great guy, man. Andy Timmons is he's the nicest guy. If anybody out there will confirm if they've ever met him, he's just the nicest dude. He's super unassuming and just fun, and, you know, no ego. He's just a great dude. Juan is up in the top chat, and he's somewhere in Europe. He says, as a non-professional guitar player for home use, should I buy a Kemper or an attenuator and an IR cabinet simulator to enjoy my current valve amp? Well, how much do you love your amp? If you're ho-hum on your amp, you know, then it's like you could explore other things. But if you love your amp and you really just like, all I want is this tone, I've found my tone, I just wish I could use it at home, then you're a great candidate for something like a reactive load, you know. And then you can just like plug into your amp and just keep working and get other amps if you want. And, you know, both are valid ways to go, you know. I was talking to a bass player last night that has a Kemper. A lot of bass players using them these days live, and he's like, he loves it. He said it sounded great. You know, he's like, yeah, it's awesome. I've, you know, had this other thing before, whatever, tried a few different things to go direct, and I got a Kemper. He's like, it's great. I can do anything with it I want. So he seemed very happy. People like them, you know. I like it too, and I've used it. It's a good piece of gear. I'm looking at it right now. I'm staring at it. It's staring at me. It's kind of staring me down, actually, a little bit. It's a little creepy, but I like it. It's when I plug into it and play through it, it's been, I use it on my record. I mean, it's on. I think it's on the opening track. It's the solo on Into Focus on the first song on Pete Thorn 2 is the Kemper on a PT 100 preset that I made. I used to use it to track at home a lot, but when I didn't have this room and I was sort of, the last studio room I had, I wasn't that happy with. So I was like, I did a lot of my record at home, actually, the Pete Thorn 2 album. And I used the Kemper on a bunch of it. Then once I got the aux and I had a reactive load at home, I was, sort of moving back towards using amps all the time and stuff at home, just doing it with the other way that you mentioned. But anyway, if you love your amp, and if you're a simple kind of person that doesn't like, I don't mean, I'm not trying to put you down. I just mean if you're the kind of person that likes, hey man, I got an amp here and I just want to turn the knobs and set it. And I love the sound. And then I want to get to playing like within 30 seconds of, powering on my gear. I don't want to think about that shit. I just want to play guitar. I think the load box and IR thing is great for people like that. If you're somebody that needs a lot of sounds and a lot of variety and you appreciate, you don't mind a little bit of learning curve, you're a little techie, then the Kemper or, into the Axe Effects world, that can work well for those people. So it just depends, Yeah. Okay. I'm moving down in the chat. Moving down. Somebody else is in the top chat. It's Casper. What's up? He says, I'm buying a PT guitar this month. Thanks, man. But I worry about fret size. How tall? Like the Tele Professional, is it possible to order from John with medium? The signature models are just kind of a set thing. I suppose you could order. I don't know. That's a great question. I think that it's probably just is what it is my honest answer. That my fret size is the jumbos. They're the big, they're fairly tall, but I really like them like that. But they do dress them down a little bit. Like they don't strike me as, when you play like certain guitars and they've got a super tall 6100 that's the Surs don't strike me as being that huge from the factory, the way that I don't know, maybe it's just in the way they get dressed or something, but it's my fret preference. It's just because it's a signature guitar. I like the big frets. I started using big frets in the 80s, and then I kind of moved away from it a little bit and I went to other things. And then once I played a guitar that had those frets in it again, I went, there's some things you have figured out when you're young. This is what I like. This is great. And it feels like home. And then you might move away from that for a minute, and then you come back to it and go, wait a minute, like, why did I'm a little bit like that with the locking tremolos. It's like, I had this figured out. Like I stayed in tune in the 80s. And then I spent like large parts of the 90s and 2000s and stuff, I'm getting used to Gibson guitars and tuning a lot and tuning in the middle of songs and stuff. And then at some point, I tried this Wilkinson bridge and I'm like, wait a minute, I did this like 20 years ago. Like, why did I ever move away from this and spend all those years tuning again? A little like that with frets, where it's just like, I know what I like. Anyways, I don't know. You can ask your dealer if they could make a custom request to maybe dress them down to a certain height. I don't know if that's something Sir does or not, though, on like the signature guitars. I think they're kind of a set spec the way that they are, but it's possible. Ask them if maybe you can get something that's a little bit on your guitar. If you don't mind waiting, because it'll be a bit of a wait if you want to, if you're ordering one custom and stuff like that. It's possible they might do that, dress them down a bit for you to a certain height. Not 100% sure, but it's possible. Thank you, though, for even considering the guitar, and I hope you get it, and I hope you love it, and it works for you. Stephen Douglas, what's up, man? He says, what single coils make a good match with the Thornbucker Plus? Currently putting together a Super Strat. The ones I have in all my guitars are V60 LPs, and they seem to work really well. If you want even something just a little bit hotter, you could try whatever the Sir ML Standard is called now. I'm not sure. There's the ML Classics and the ML Standards. They've renamed them now to something else, but you'd have to ask whatever pickup that is. But they're a little bit hotter. The ML Standards are the kind, I think maybe the hottest single coil that they make in a Strat style single coil, and so that might pair quite well with it. But I find the V60 LPs are just fine, especially if you set the humbucker at like not too high. It's kind of a medium height. that could work well for you. There's somebody else in the top chat. That is Saul, and he's saying, "Are you thinking on getting on Cameo?" No, I don't even know what that is. Is that some new thing that I need, some new social network that I need to look at? Cameo social. I'm going to look it up here so that I know what we're talking about. Cameo startup lets you buy your friends personalized messages from personalized shoutouts. Book personalized video shoutouts from your favorite people. Seems a little weird. I don't know. I don't really do stuff like that. I'll give you a shout out right on here. They can come on here. I'll give you a personal shout out. If it's somebody's birthday, if it's your mom's birthday, if it's, all you got to do is show up on Sunday and I'll give you a personalized shout out. Andy Timmons always gets awesome live tone, says David Smith. Yeah, I agree. If you guys watch my video from NAMM this past year, I managed to get the whole Bohemian Rhapsody, just about his whole Bohemian Rhapsody performance, which is just amazing. He does a really beautiful cover of Bohemian Rhapsody, just guitar, bass, drums, and check that out. And even just on my Sony camcorder that I used, it's stellar, and his tone was great that night. And that place didn't sound very good, I don't think, the place that they had that gig in, and he still sounded great up there. Okay. Eric Rader says, any chance you'd do a shootout between your new 212 and a 412 or 2? I'm really curious about the effect the extra airspace has on the low end. I don't know how I could show that in a video. I don't know that it would really show. You kind of need to be in the room with the cabinet, but the new 212 is quite deep. And they have a real big sound for the size of the cabinet, that's for sure. I mean, it's a B style cab, so it's like a bottom cab, so it's got the full depth all the way down through the cabinet. And with the V30 and the greenback, I mean, it's a rocking little cabinet. The original one is too. The one for the PT100 is a great full sounding, very big sound. I never miss playing with a 412 with those cabs. Over in Japan, I've got 2 of the 212s and 2 of my 100-watt heads over there. And that's been my rig for, 5 years now or something like that. And those cabs, sometimes when I would go over there, I'd have to rent 412s before my gear would get there or something. I'd have my heads, but not cabs. And then I'd just move to the 212s when they showed up. That happened once, I remember. And they sound just as big and full and all that because they're deep. It's the depth, I find, that really makes the cabinet sound big and full and have a nice full bass response. And you can't make them too small, like you need a little bit of volume in the cabinet, size in the cabinet, depth and height, but they don't need to be as big as a Bogner oversized, I don't think, in order to have a nice full sound though. Those cabs are really big and maybe too big for a 212 for me, but still a good sound. I used to have a Bogner oversized. I lost it actually. It's like a long story, but it ended up in Europe and never came back. Can you explain compression with overdrive and pedal order and pedal stacking overdrives and boost? That's from Braxall. Well, compression should just, to me, surely because of the noise floor. Like a compressor is going to compress the sound. It's going to pull the noise floor up. Like whatever's the quiet sounds, it pulls up, and loud sounds, it pulls down, right? It puts everything into more of a squash space. So if you put it after a drive pedal, a gain circuits always create some noise. If you put it after the drive pedal, the drive pedal's noise is going to go into there, and the compressor is going to pull up that noise. So that's part of the problem. And also just the feel. I like a compressor to be connected right to the guitar, to be hearing that signal coming right out of the pickups, not a signal coming out of a drive. Although some people have done compressed kind of drive sounds, to good effect. There's no hard and fast rules. You can try running a compressor after a drive, but it is going to bump the noise 100% of the time. There's no way around that. So generally speaking, you put a compressor first so that you don't bump that noise floor up. I don't really, every now and then I'll use like a low gain drive, like a Janray or something with a compressor in front. And that can be a nice sound for a solo, or if I want a sustaining solo that's not obviously overdriven heavily, that can be a pretty cool combo. Low gain overdrive with just a big grit and then a compressor. And you can get almost as much sustain as you would out of, say, a medium gain driven solo, right? And it's a different sound. It's like a cleaner, can be really nice with some echo and stuff like that to use for like a something in a spacey ballad or something like that, and you want a Gilmore kind of thing going on, that can be a good sound. Stacking overdrives and boost. If you've got a boost in front of an overdrive pedal, it's going to hit that overdrive pedal, and if the drive pedal's on, right, and it's going to hit that drive pedal and just drive the drive pedal into more overdrive, really, without bumping your volume up very much, probably, because you're just hitting the drive circuit, which is already clipping off the tops and bottom of the signal, if you were to look at it, and it's not really going to, it's just going to increase the clipping. It's like hitting it harder with the, louder pickup in your guitar. You really get more volume once you're driving. So, but if you run a boost after an overdrive pedal, and if your amp's set relatively clean or somewhat clean, that boost is then going to bump up the level coming out of the overdrive pedal, and you'll get a volume increase. So boost in front of drive will give you more sustain, more drive, more saturation. Boost after a drive will give you more volume, but not, generally speaking, much more sustain, or unless it kicks your guitar into feedback and stuff, because the volume goes up. So it depends what you want. Do you want to get louder, or do you want to get more overdrive, more saturation? Tom is in the top chat, and he says, after RJ began using PT100 in most videos, I may sell my twin reverb in ecstasy and get a PT100. Thanks for everything you do. Wow, I didn't know he was using it in most videos. He's a really nice guy. I met him at NAMM, and I like his videos. He makes really good demos, and he's a great guitar player. So that's awesome that he's using that. That's I'll have to hit him up about that. Twin reverb in ecstasy and get a PT100. The PT100 really does have probably everything you need coming out of a twin reverb in ecstasy, because actually the clean channel is very much like a cross between a twin and a super reverb. So it's going to feel fairly familiar to you, I think. And then the drive channel is great. And I actually, ecstasy is a good amp. I prefer it to the ecstasy, though. Obviously, it's my signature amp. I better. So, but I don't think, long story short, that you're going to be, I think it's, originally when John designed the PT100, I was using multiple amps, a whole bunch of different, divided by 13s, and my comments. So I still love those amps, but he said, let me try and make you something that has everything in one, so you're not touring. He was like, he found it confusing why I had all these amps on stage. He's like, let me try and make you one amp, and I think you'll be happier. It'll be simpler. And that was the genesis of the PT100 from the beginning. Mr. Hard Rocker is in the top chat, and he says, do you think you can produce a good dynamic hard rock tone from an album only with plug-in amp sims? And if so, which ones? Sure. I could make, I've often thought about that. Like, maybe I should limit myself to making an entire album with a Helix or something, which, by the way, is a great one. Like the Helix Placator is probably my favorite model distortion hard rock sound. It's the BE100 style sound that comes in the Helix. And if you pair it with a Celestion impulse response, it's pretty devastatingly good sounding. Honestly, it really is really good sounding. So that would be a good one. And you can get Helix as a plug-in, or obviously the standalone modeler kind of units. So give that one a try. Some of the other ones, the Mercurial ones, which I did a demo of, there's a company from Russia, I think, but they make some nice Marshally amp sims, as well as like a Mesa Triaxis one. That's good stuff. There's a whole bunch I haven't tried, from Fortin and all kinds of ones that I haven't. I know some great ones out there. The PT100 from UA has been a big success, and people seem to plug into it, and they're just kind of astounded, actually, for an amp sim, how good it sounds. I kind of get a lot of comments on that and how much people like it. So give that one a try too. Leon is in the top chat, and he says, with just amp and cab, what do you think is the best way to position it all to hear yourself live, assuming limited space? Well, you can do one thing that you want to do is maybe carry around something that will tilt the amp or cabinet up towards you. If there's a way that you can do that, like a great thing to have around is an ashtray. If you're in a bar, nobody smokes anymore, but you can still find ashtrays some places. And if you can take an ashtray and put it under the so your 412's pointed straight, just put it under the front, and it tilts back just a little bit. And generally, you can still sit the head. You want to be careful, obviously, so the head doesn't fall over backwards. You end up in one of those funny videos on YouTube or something where your whole rig falls off the stage. But if you can tilt the cab back just a little bit, and then you're going to find you can hear it a little bit better. So something like that, or, put it on a chair, or, they make products for this too, like kickstands for combos and things that you can. The main thing is if the thing if you need to hear it and you can't play that loud or something like that, and it's not pointed at you, then that's the problem. If it's pointing at your pant legs or something, you're not going to hear it. But just angle it towards you and you'll hear it, generally speaking. So for a while on tour with Melissa Etheridge, I used a hockey stick. How Canadian. But I had I had two 212 cabinets, one with my Jim Kelly had and one with the SL68. And they took a hockey stick and put it under the front of both cabs, and then the hockey stick was like sticking up like that, and that would push the cabs up a little bit. It's kind of funny. There's pictures of my rig with this hockey stick under the front. And it's super Canadian. Righty. Let me see what else we got here. Somebody else is in the top chat, and I'm missing a few of these, but I'm getting my moderator here sending them to me. Casper, and I think he's maybe in. Are you over in Denmark, Casper? And he says, you're the best guitarist in the world right now. Dude, I know I'm not. You're modest, so saying no, but that's the truth. You're too kind. There can be no best. I don't think I'm even close to one of them, but Mike Landau, to me, is my favorite, is the best guitarist in the world. If you've never seen him, you got to see him. But thanks, man. Hey, thanks for being here, and I appreciate the support. I do. You're too kind. I guess best is whatever best is to different people, like it's different for different people. Neil Young to many people is probably like the best guitarist, because he's so primal and awesome, in the way he plays, and it's all about the song and the attitude and stuff. So, and then somebody might be, oh, it's Yngwie, you never know. So that's the fun part. It's art. So it's like different for everybody, I guess, eh? Yeah, eh? Andy Picker says, hey, Pete, PT15 single one channel, no switching, no FX, no load box, lunchbox format, bucket load of PT tone, please. You know what's funny about that? The original demo amp, the original prototype, for the PT15 is a single channel, just channel 2 with like 5 knobs. John wanted to try building an amp like that, and he built it. He built basically the power section that's in the current amplifier, which is a 266 15 watt style power section, and he built it with a single drive channel, and it sounded killer. And but the new amp, it's basically the sound of the new amp. So there is one of those that you talk about, a very simple, no load, no nothing, just a PT channel 2 with the 6Vs, and it's badass. We'll see what happens. I've talked to him about I don't know if they'll ever do it or what they'll do, but I've said, you should make simple amps with this power amp, like this 15 watt power amp. Just, you could make a plexi, 5 knob little baby plexi or something with this power amp, or you could make your SE high gain channel or whatever, and just put out little heads that have like 5 knobs and nothing else going on. Very simple amps because it's a great sounding power amp. You guys heard it in action this on the channel 1 PT demo, where I played 10 Years Gone. You can really hear the power amp driving when I'm hitting it kind of hard. The fun part though, man, about having the load in there is that, like, the driven sound that you can get on that channel 1 that you heard in my video, you can also, use the load. I think I described this last week, but if you plug into the second speaker jack on the back, then, if you want the full 15 watts, you use the first jack. If you plug into the second one, the load will still be in parallel. And all you got to do is set the impedance at a half setting. And then what happens is you've now got 7 watts or so, because the load's in parallel with your cabinet. So you could drive it at 7 watts. It's going to be a great volume for, it's still loud, actually, amazing. 7 watts. I mean, even 1 watt is kind of loud. It's too loud for like an apartment or something. But, if you're playing downstairs at home in your basement or something, and you want to rock out and get real power tube distortion, it's a totally reasonable volume for a lot of situations. And not to mention, like, just about any gig, nobody's going to give you shit for using 7 watts driven like that. Even a quiet gig, it's just a cool sound. But anyways, okay, I'm gonna move down a little bit. Let's see here. Who else we got here? Frank says he picked up a Walrus audio phaser based on my video. Sounds great. Yeah, it's a nice phaser, isn't it? That video came out this week. And you think phaser, oh, what's there to, but it's, man, like a good analog phaser that's got something different going on. It's actually a really sweet sounding pedal that can get almost univibe-ish with that knob that goes from dry to phase to vibe. It's got a great sound. So warm and chewy, and that's the thing when you play through an analog. Like every time I play an analog pedal, you forget sometimes, or an analog, great example is, like I was saying, Kevin Sir's delay. He bought a what the hell's the delay, guys? The spinning disc, the Benson. He's got a real Benson, and you plug it in, you're like, oh yeah, God, it's good. Like it's just, there is something still missing from all the, like they get close, the digital kind of recreations of all this stuff, but a good analog phaser is like, man, it's chewy and warm. It just kind of does what you plug it in. Well, there it is. It's, what's funny is it's the kind of stuff I was talking about with frets or the bridge, the locking bridge. It's like I had all this figured out, and you knew, there is something to a tape delay and stuff. Like in the 80s, when the first time I played a Space Echo, I was like, oh, this just makes the amp sound better. Like you plug this thing in, the preamp in it, and then you turn on the tape. It's just, oh God, that sounds good. And then you kind of try and find other ways to do that stuff using digital rack effects and things. And he's like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. But that magic thing where you plug it in and it's so easy, and like a great Phase 90 is that, you turn it on, oh, God, that's good. It's chewy. It's one knob. It sounds so good. I don't even want to, just leave it on, like it's not that hard, I guess, is what I'm getting at, People used to do this, a Marshall and a Phase 90 and an Echoplex and a wah and maybe a fuzz or a treble booster and, one drive. And it was like, oh, the guitar tone's amazing. Analog recording was like that too. I always say that the big thing with digital recording, it got really, it was harder. You had to yes, it was convenient, but it was harder to get a good sound right out of the gate. With analog recording, I use the example of my friend. I was in this band called Sparkler many years ago in the 90s, and he had an old Ampex 24-track machine, like decent 24 tracks, 2-inch 24 track, but like they were sort of the, midline, like they weren't a Studer. And he had decent mics, 414s and things, and 57s and 421s, standard complement of decent mics, and a cool little recording studio. And you'd go in there to record, just set up the mics and kind of get levels. Allen and Heath board, nothing special. And, get good levels to that 24 track, and then go in and cut a take. And then you come in and listen, and it just, that sounds good. Sounds like rock and roll. Like we didn't even try very hard. Just kind of move the mics around a bit and put them where you think you should put them, get decent levels, do a take. Ooh, sounds good. It's like you just concentrate on the playing and stuff. It's not that hard. And then, beyond that, it's like, we got to digital and it was like, oh, we got to try hard now. We need to think about mic pre's and compressors and exactly how to, your front end became very important all of a sudden. Like you couldn't just use average mics and pre's and an Allen and Heath board. It didn't sound, we were trying to do things in other ways to catch up to the awesome sound that you could just get out of kind of without that much effort with this analog stuff. I don't know. I sound like an old man right now, but maybe it's because I am. Wow. Somebody is in the top chat and they're far too kind. It's Own Tone. You're a hell of a guy, Own Tone. Thank you very much. You say, no question, I just want to support your channel. Thanks, man. Hey, you're the best. I get a lot out of the Pro Musician series and love the demos. So much fun to listen to the demo songs. Thanks, man. And the softest hoodie I ever bought. It's really, because I don't have one of the hoodies yet from you're talking about the Teespring store, right? Or maybe it's the ones I did for the record. But anyways, I'm glad you like it, and you're too kind. Thanks. You guys are amazing. Thank you for doing the top chat, and I won't stop. I'll keep going. Tom is in the top chat as well. Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much. He says, do you think profit margins of large companies killed most hand-wired and analog gear? Profit margins of large companies killed most hand-wired and analog gear. No, I don't think so. I mean, to be honest, we were just talking about an analog phaser, right? And there's plenty of analog stuff still out there. I mean, the carbon copy is analog, right, from a big company. There's still plenty of tube amps out there. I mean, we're doing them. And uh, d- uh, when it comes to studio stuff, it just became kind of like it's a little bit of a different thing when you're talking about making studers, and you got to consider too that studios went away. Like a lot of the big studios, there just isn't that thing anymore. Getting cold, so I'm gonna put this back on. Like so the industry wasn't there to support buying a $28,000 tape deck anymore when you could just do it on a computer for less money. Does that make sense? The industry not being there. The industry moved towards much more towards smaller studios, project studios, home studios, and that kind of thing. And so that was just a reflection on, it was a tape, man. I mean, tape's expensive, a 15-minute reel costs now like $300 or something. There's a couple companies still making tape, I think, where you can buy old used reels, that were like used once, and then you can buy those and erase them or whatever and record over them. But it's a much more expensive and to maintain just the knowledge of maintaining one of those old Studers or like I mentioned, the Ampex decks or the 3M decks. I mean, demagnetizing the heads and cleaning them and keeping all the parts where a lot of moving parts and stuff, it's just difficult. So it was convenience many times, I talked a bit about this with Rick Beato, like convenience kind of in some ways has killed rock and roll the way that we used to, do it a little bit. There's some truth to that, I think. But hey, I wouldn't be here like you guys right now, my friend Ontone in the top chat right now and saying that, he likes to listen to the demo songs and stuff. There's no way I could do that with that old stuff. I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be doing this here today. So it's different. It's just things have changed, and there's some things that are, that are maybe not as good as they were back then in some ways, and then there's other things that are way better. So I try and look at it as the progression is what it is, and it's positive, and it's been amazing for me. The fact that I can have a room like this with these amps and get some cool tones and make the songs and stuff that I get to do in here, that's pretty special, I think, for me. And I certainly have a lot of fun doing it. And it's a lot easier than it would have been, when I had to rent a studio and an engineer and all the things, because I didn't know how to do all that stuff back in the day. I don't know. It's just, it's empowering, the way that we're doing things now. As far as the gear getting, there's still plenty of the, we've had a whole resurgence of the kind of, the boutique pedals, boutique amplifiers and stuff. And, profit margin. I was talking a little bit about this with Dave Friedman the other day, like, Marshall with an Origin amp, the kind of money they make on something like an Origin amp, they probably make $40 off that amplifier once they charge what they need to charge for, the dealers make their cut and stuff. What they're banking on is, when you're talking about profit margins and they're very small, they're banking on huge numbers, that they're going to sell a ton of those amplifiers to make, so it's an interesting perspective, I think. Leon's in the top chat. He says, thanks for everything. When not miking a cab, do you EQ to account for any loss when the sound reaches the audience? When not miking a cab, like live, you mean when you're maybe using impulse responses or something? Generally speaking, I find in a PA, it's a little different than what you're going to do in a recording. Many times I find live sound people, they like a perfect sounding IR or mic'd sound for that matter, that would sound great in a recording. Live, many times I find guys find them too bright. In a PA, they tend to, many times guys will say, yeah, your tone's great, I love it, I'm just cutting a little bit at 4K or 5K or something. It's like, oh, I could just do that on the mic if you want. We move. Some microphones, like some of the best live guitar sounds I've ever heard are actually large diaphragm condenser microphones. So like the Audio-Technica 4050 is a great one for live guitar. It's a workhorse FET, large diaphragm condenser microphone. I've used them a little bit on tour, and I've also heard other bands use them. And when I hear them in the PA, they just sound amazing. It's probably a little less spiky and pokey than a 57 would be, a little bit flatter of a sound, and just sounds full and awesome in a PA and not like abrasive. And So I don't know what that is, but you're asking specifically about, I think, when not miking a cab, maybe what happens with IRs. I don't think it's any different, than it's a great mic'd up sound. It can be similar to a great IR. And the sound guy's going to, for whatever PA and however the PA's EQ, you got to remember, a PA's got an EQ on the whole PA too, generally speaking, like in a big place, right? They've got they've gone through and cut and boost, they send a pink noise through the PA and try and tune the PA to the room. So who knows what that does once you put your mic guitar sound in there. They might have to compensate for certain things. So it's not my area of expertise actually to really know, but exactly what's going on. But I do like to go out and listen to my guitar in the PA, and sometimes I'll ask the sound guy, like, so what did you end up doing on the strip? Because it's good knowledge for me to know, like, if I'm giving them a sound that's way too bright or maybe way too full, they're like, oh, I've got to, I'm cutting some bass and doing, then it's like, maybe I should just compensate. I'd like to give them the sound from the source rather than have them EQ a lot at the desk. I love it when somebody says, man, I'm barely touching your guitar. It sounds great. Like I just pulled it up and, did a little of this or a little of that. So, well, okay, fine. Then I'm good. So I guess no two sound people and gigs are the same. You sent, sorry, I meant without IRs, just volume. That's Leon again in the top chat. Without IRs or just volume. You mean just sending a DI guitar signal right into the PA? I wouldn't recommend that ever. That's going to sound pretty crazy and weird. Probably not that good. You need to use at least some sort of speaker simulation. Sorry if I'm not understanding your question as well, but which is totally possible. But you meant without IRs, just volume. Well, you got to use some kind of like at least a Palmer or something to give you some sort of that characteristic 5K high-end roll-off that a guitar cab has. Because if you don't do that, it's going to sound like really gnarly. Or like the Sir Ace is a great one for if you want to use some sort of analog speaker sim. I know Doug Aldrich actually uses that. He loves it. It's a simple box that's got, a couple simple EQ controls on it, and that's it. And it basically gives you that mic'd up greenback kind of sound. Let's see. Greetings from Fallbrook, says Steve. Hi, Steve. He's in the standard chat area. The normal chat area. I'm going to go through some of these here. Treble boosters are still fairly popular with some doom metal bands. Are they? That's good to know. I should do a little bit of research before I guess I put this video out, but that's Scott Connor giving me that bit of wisdom. Somebody else is in the top chat, and they say 212 cab for Vox, Supro, or Friedman speaker combo. 212 cab for Vox, Supro, and well, those are pretty different amps. Vox, Supro, and Friedman speaker combo. What you might want to do is, I'm just throwing it out there. You might want to combine something like a greenback with like a creamback, the Alnico Cream. That could be a neat cabinet. I'm not sure about the efficiency. The Alnico Cream is probably more efficient than the greenback for sure. But something like a blend of, or maybe like a creamback H with a Alnico Cream could be a nice combo for something like that. Because then in your 212, you'll have a nice Alnico style speaker for the Vox and the Supro, and a little bit more of those kind of compressed, Alnico sort of tones that you might want for that type of amp. And then with the Friedman, you'd have the modern kind of speaker, the Greenback H or Greenback, something like that. So that could be a nice blend. And I think sometimes those speakers can sound great on gain tones anyway, like Alnico Cream. That's a pretty cool sounding speaker. So look into that. See what you think. Alnico Gold can sound. In my Bogner Oversize, I actually had a V30 and an Alnico Gold. Kind of an interesting combo, and it did sound really good. Jennifer's in the top chat. You're too kind, Jennifer. Thank you. Worst part of new media. You're saying access to data by producers motivated by money and not art. They take formulaic songs and rewrite them over and over. Yeah, true. That's pop music you're talking about. Modern pop, basically. Yeah, I'm not really down with that. I'm kind of out when it comes to that. I don't really listen to, the that type of stuff. I'm not really interested in it, I mean, there's some pop music that I really like that I hear that comes out that's modern and stuff. But if it's just sort of, you know, uh, vapid, all the V words, I don't know, and that's not really what we do here anyway, is it? So, but the great thing is there's tons of stuff out there that has nothing to do with that you can enjoy. That's, um, that's terrific, and I love hearing pop that's not that. Like I always use the Billie Eilish example. I love her music. I listen to it and I'm totally into it. I can listen to the whole record front to back and just be like, this is great, So that's a different thing, because that has nothing to do with any of that. And in a way, she's kind of smashing the whole, I don't know. I've used the Coachella example. I've talked about it on here, but if you watch Ariana Grande, who Ariana Grande's talented, she's a great singer and stuff, and puts on a fantastic show, I think, from what I've seen. But it's that thing with the dancers and the huge production. And break up with your girlfriend because I'm bored. I'm not really into that. In case it's the lyrics and stuff. It's just kind of silly to me. So that's not my thing. She's a great singer though. But if you watch her Coachella performance from this last year, and then you watch Billie Eilish, who came out late, and when she comes out, it's like the friggin' Beatles. It's like the people are just going nuts, and then they sing every word of her songs. And it's like, oh my God, that's a movement, and it's powerful. She's doing something special that's really connecting. And it's, it's mostly kids out there, and they're having like a killer time. But it's like Dave Grohl went to see her and said, this is like Nirvana was in the early days. Like he took his daughter, I think, to go see her. And he's like, oh my God, like this is going off. Like the kids are so into this. And so I love that, that's the thing. So there is hope. It's great to see that, like, that good stuff connects, it's a powerful thing, and it's still just the same, and it'll always be that way. I think some say that rock is dead. What are your thoughts? Says Jack. Well, no, that is kind of what we're talking about right now. I mean, if rock is just an aesthetic, like a tone and like, I don't think so, it's a little more, things are more fragmented, and rock isn't on the charts like it was, and it's not the money maker that it was, but it's still a powerful thing that many people love and enjoy, so it's not this, just because it's not in the mainstream forefront, like out there and the billboard, like whatever, and that type of thing, I don't know, man. I mean, and the old rock bands, I mean, like if we're talking about Def Leppard and Journey and stuff, they still go out and, Bon Jovi, it's like they play arenas, still, like, and they're sold out. So explain that to me, it's like some of the biggest grossing tours are still that stuff. The Rolling Stones will go out and they'll be the biggest grossing band, it'll be the biggest tour. It just will, the biggest, Billy Joel, man, Madison Square Garden, just constantly plays and sells. He doesn't even put out music, and it's sold out, every time I want to go see one of those Billy Joel shows at the Madison Square Garden. I love his music so much, man. Every time I've heard him recently, like I was in a bar or something, it was yesterday when I was ordering lunch, and I was in there, and I can't even remember the name of the song, but some Billy Joel song came out. I just love his music so much, man. It's so good. I wish he'd make another record and write some more songs. I guess he just doesn't want to do that. But anyways, blah, blah, blah. What's the pedal Aldrich is going to demo, says Chris Cam. I'm not 100% sure about that. I think it's his overdrive. And he's got a small, like a battery, or not battery powered, like a pedal board sort of amp. I don't really understand it yet. I haven't seen it, but he wants to use that. And so I'm going to help him make a video for it, and we'll put it on my channel. And it's the same company that I think it's Baroni Labs, so the same people that do the Fox Gear pedals. And so he's going to come by. I think we're doing this tomorrow, actually. Yeah. And we're going to, better get it cleaned up a bit in here. God, Doug coming in, I want it to be a mess. Anyway, he's gonna swing by, and we're gonna work on it. So we'll see what we come up with. I think it's gonna be fun. I like Doug a lot. He's a great dude. Leo says we live in the golden age of guitar gear. Really, I would agree with that. We do. So many choices. SD Design. Matt Harrison is saying SD Design, the SM58 is his favorite mic for performing live, personal live vocal mic. Hard to beat a good old 58, right? You guys are sort of talking amongst yourselves, so I'm a little lost now. You guys are talking about katanas and mini amps and all kinds of stuff. But if you guys are talking about mini practice amps, I have a little Nux, NUX, whatever they're called, little practice amp. I'm actually going to make a video for it because it's so different than, I don't really make videos for amplifiers. But I'm going to make a video of this one because this is this big and it's battery powered and it's got drum beats in it. So for hotel rooms and stuff, it's killer. I absolutely love the thing. Really, really great. M-Pest. So check out the it's, I can't remember what it's called, but the little battery powered one. It's the same size as the Black Star, the little battery powered Black Star that I had. And you could throw it in your bag, you know, throw it in a backpack or in a suitcase or whatever, and then plug in a hotel room with the grooves in it and stuff. It's just fun for practice. You're one of my go-to guys for reviews, Pete, says Mpesta. Always great reviews, but the riffs and tunes are usually stellar. Thank you. Keep it up and rock on. I aim to make them good. It's always fun. Always fun, always fun. Anyway. Yeah, what else we got here? You guys are talking about Yamaha THRs, I think. Is it weird to use a PA speaker as a main cabinet? Not if it works for you. I use a Black Widow with my Jet City JCA 22H. Sounds pretty good to me. Pushes a lot of air. Hey man, if it sounds good, it's good. I'm all about it. You know, if it works for you, don't worry about what anybody else says, as long as it sounds good. Scott says, good morning from the Olympic Peninsula. What's up there? A bit late to the gathering. That's all good. It's Sunday. You should chill. Now, who else we got here? It's always interesting. So later in the chat, you guys start talking amongst yourselves, which I love. Don't stop doing that. And then it gets harder to find like questions because you guys are talking about stuff, which is just how it is. Pete says, Saint Luminous says, Pete, I'm totally with you and Joe Bonamassa about the art form of rock guitar, if you will. Sad to see electric guitar getting dumped pushed into a boring commodity. I agree. So Joe put out an article in Guitar Magazine. It's a European publication about when did the guitar become this pariah of, like, you know, basically he thinks, you know, guitar turned up loud kind of on stage, which is part of the instrument, is getting pushed to the, you know, the side. And I've talked about this same subject a lot, and so I don't want to go on too much about it. But yeah, I was just sort of supporting him in his. We had a little back and forth on Twitter, good, you know, where I said, you go, dude, and sent him to a link to my article that I wrote last year about this in Premier Guitar, where I was saying, you know, basically let the guitar be the guitar. I heard stories of like in the exchange, you know, about like Eric Gales playing Viper Room and some guy telling him he had to turn down. He goes, dude, just basically like, I'm Eric Gales, like not I'm Eric Gales, like, but like the guitar, he said something like the guitar is a really important element of what's going on tonight. It's just let it be what it is. And of course, you know, whoever was posting that comment said I was at the show and it was great. You know, of course the show goes on and it's awesome. And Eric is Eric. But basically saying, don't let these, you know, it's unfortunate when sound people, they have this vision of like what's better, and you've got somebody like a Bonamassa or an Eric Gales coming in, and it's like all of a sudden there's somebody kind of up in your grill or whatever saying you need to do this because, and as Joe put it, he said, don't become somebody's, you know, what did he say? Like basically give in to somebody's audio engineering fantasy. And I find this a lot, you know, where it's like, it's, you know, that don't, this is a fine line because these sound people, I know from their angle, they got a lot of people that come in and play too loud that suck, you know, that aren't like, you know, they have no business like cranking up that loud and just playing obnoxiously. And it's not nice to listen to. And it's like, there's been a lot of that over the years, obviously. And so when the option came to have quieter stages and turning things down and stuff like that, of course, a lot of those people will jump on that chance because they know part of their job is it does suck. They deal with, you know, but when you got somebody like Eric Gales coming in, you've got to realize that just let him do his thing. Don't try and fuck with the music, don't try and change what, if you gotta, when you're in the presence of somebody that knows what they're doing, it's okay. And then, so I was kind of surprised. I'm just going to lay out of it because I was getting too passionate about it. But on the gear page, the amount of guitar players that were in the thread basically saying, oh, Joe is just, whatever, elitist, and, it's not reality. People need to learn how to turn down and all. It's like, you guys are a bunch of guitar players. Like, and I just sort of, I said, this comes down to an understanding of how rock was created. Like, you either get how Jimi Hendrix did it or you don't, or Brian May, or you don't. And it's not cool to me to think that there could be a new Brian May or Jimi Hendrix, somebody on that level out there that is then going to get neutered by some sound guy somewhere when they come in a club. It's like, you better just listen to my thing is, can you just listen to the person first? Just let them play for 5 minutes or a song or whatever, and just turn off your instinct to shut them down and fit them into some little comfortable box, right? Once again, coming back to Rick Beato's comment about how rock became about convenience more than, right? Don't put them in that box. Let them do their thing. And then if it's just really over the top and bad, then maybe you can move in and say, this isn't going to work for us tonight. But when it's friggin' Eric Gales or Bonamassa or something, just leave them alone and let them do their show, Let it be a little dangerous, and maybe a little loud. Oh, gonna hurt our ears. Oh, God. I'm sorry, but I played in a band with Chris Cornell, I played with Courtney Love, It's like, rock for me is not about like convenience and being nice and conforming and all that crap. That's just not what, it's like, that's not what it's about for me. It's about being it's supposed to be a little dangerous and, a little like off the rails and loud at times and quiet at times, because that's the thing. You go see Mike Landau, like we were talking about, right? He's very quiet. At times he's the quietest guy. You can't believe how quiet it is. It's like he turns down so much and then like, boom. And sometimes it's in the context of within the same 2 bars, right? They did the song the other night, if anybody was there, where the first chord is, and then, right? And he's rolling the volume down on the guitar, and it's like, give me a break. Like, it's so great. It's so awesome. So, oh man, I'm on a tear now. But yeah, I'm not into the, like people in the gear page thread talking about, you go to a bar, most people want to talk. And it's like, no, okay, some bars where there's just cover songs going on, that's true. And it's like, people want to talk. And I don't like going to a bar either when it's just the band is so damn loud playing a Doors song or something that I can't even, and then they go into the next song and it's, whatever, I don't know, it's just more like jammy, like, and it's just so friggin' loud that, okay, I get that. That's not, but some bars are music venues. The Whiskey, the Roxy, the Viper Room. These are places where you're supposed to go and be entertained by music. It's not a place where you go for conversation. So if you go into a music venue like the Viper Room, or you're going to the Roxy or whatever, and there's Eric Gales playing, and you want to have a conversation and you're upset about the fact you can't talk to your friend, like, get the fuck out and go to a pub across the street or something. Sorry. It needs to be said. That's what Joe's talking about. He's not talking about like, you guys know what I'm saying. He's not talking about you understand what I'm saying. It's like this, you can't paint with a blanket brush everything here, right? Okay, I'm gonna stop with my rant. Sorry, I got passionate, but it needs to be said. There's a fella up in the top chat. There's somebody else I missed in the top chat. So I love that Philip Sace plays Sofa King loud. Philip Sace you don't go see Philip to talk to your friend. You go see Philip because you want to get knocked on your ass by some great blues guitar, right? So that's the thing, and know that it's going to be that, and just let that be that. Who was it? Gary Clark Jr. was talking about in the did you guys see the Foo Fighters series? Traveling music or whatever it was called, the one where they made the record on the road, and they go to all the different cities and record in every city. And they interviewed Gary Clark Jr., and he's an Austin resident, and he mentioned that down on 6th Street or whatever, it's become a thing where 6th Street is this crazy, there's music happening everywhere, all these clubs and live music, and that's what makes the city great. It's a big part of what makes the city so special. And then what's happening is that people move in because they love the city and it's so special and unique, and then they start making noise complaints. They're buying condos and buildings that are coming up close to 6th Street or whatever, and they don't like the noise. It's like, you moved here because it's cool. If you don't like it, like, don't try and destroy what it's about, and just make 6th Street be I don't know, like the same old, like, don't try and you guys know what I'm saying. Like, it's just gonna end up being like J. Crew and Starbucks and stuff all along 6th Street, and it'll be a shadow of its former self and get ruined if you don't appreciate like what it's about. So, okay, that's enough. Sorry. Up in the top chat, Abracas1. Ian, thanks, dude, for doing the top chat. I really appreciate that. Thoughts on preamps specifically for recording guitars with mic cabs? Specifically with a 57 and a 121. Other things to consider when choosing a preamp. Thanks for everything. Thank you, man. Thanks for doing the top chat. I have a couple here, and my choices are an API and a BAE 1073 style. And I think you kind of need to look no further for guitar. The API is very in your face and kind of forward, and it's got a great aggressive upfront rock and roll sort of sound. And the Neve style pre's, the 1073s, are also very rock and roll, and you can drive them up and they sound cool, but they're fatter, a little slower sounding, and a little, but just fat, and like, but it's great. So if you want that aggressive forward, like, if I was doing stuff where I wanted crunchy, in your face, like really like, like fast attack kind of, I don't know. I can't say as one's better for metal or not, or something, but I would say the API would be better for that direct, you know what I mean? And then the Neve style pre's are better for just kind of overall. It's a full sound, they've got a full low mid kind of thing, and it's not like night and day here like preamps, but they do have an effect on the sound, and I love both of them. So look at the BAE. Mine's the 1073 MP. It's a dual channel 1073 style pre that has what they call the Steve Stevens mod in it, actually, which has an output that blends. It sums both the outputs, and this can be a nice thing if you don't want to deal with like printing 2 tracks for every track you're laying down. It'll sum both those outputs. You can get the blend of the 121 and the 57 right in the pre, sum out to one output, and just print one track, but with the blend of the 2 mics. It's kind of like a built-in little, summing mixer, essentially. The API I have is the A2D, and it's got a built-in ADD converter, which I don't really use anymore. I just use the ones in my UA. So it's essentially 2, I guess, what are they, 312 style pre's, and with the standard complement of pad and phase and all that kind of stuff. DI inputs on the front. Both these units have a 1/4-inch high-Z input on the front, so you could run a bass or record DI guitar right through them. But yeah, look at the A2D and the 1073 MP. Right. Moving down. Who else we got in here? I'm far behind, aren't I? In the chat. Sorry, guys. I get so going off on these things, and then I get behind. But let's see. Been wanting to pick the brain of a good live sound person to find out what some of the standard EQ moves are for guitar, and then tweak my IRs accordingly, says Paul. Yeah, it's always good to talk to live sound people that you think are talented and stuff, and say, so what are you doing, on the guitar? Could I get, I like to say, is there anything I could be giving you that would make your job easier, in the PA. Yeah. Let's see. Tom Harhai says that Michael Landau says, it's a Michael Landau quote, people go insane comparing different amps. The cabinet and speakers make far more difference. That's pretty interesting. I know Mike takes his cabinets pretty seriously. I think there's a lot of truth to that. The speaker is a huge, 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 huge element. The cabinets in the speakers, I mean, like an AC30 cabinet. I always use the example that if you took a Fender 410 Bassman and you took an output out of it and ran it into a 212 with blues, it's like, oh, it starts sounding very Voxy all of a sudden. Like, not exactly, but it's like the character of what we think of as a Vox is so much to do with those the speakers, the Alnico speakers, and the 212 open back cabinet. That's why I don't actually recommend getting one of the Voxes with a greenback or something in it, because it's just kind of like it can sound really cool, but it's not the same sound. Like if you want an Alnico, you want it to sound like what you think of as an AC30. The speakers are really important. So, yeah. Yep. Okay, I'm gonna move down here and find another question. Oh, there's somebody up in the top chat up there. It's Casper. He says, "Why are you so much nicer than my heroes from the '80s?" Because I'm Canadian. Everybody from Canada is nice. No, I don't know. I would have never dreamed of interacting with my childhood heroes. YouTube era. You know, there was a thing in the '80s where I guess rock star guys in the '80s. I know what you mean, like interacting with a lot. They're very nice now. I mean, a lot of those guys, like I'll meet them. I don't know, George Lynch. He's so nice. Like he's a great dude. He's just he's funny. He's a really nice guy. I meet a lot of these people, and I think maybe they were isolated and placed up on a pedestal a lot in the '80s, or and that was like part of their role, was to almost be like a thing, the rock gods, and they were treated differently and stuff. And nowadays it's a little more like, I guess everybody's closer together, social media, and you don't get, I don't know, it's just a different time. But bands had a lot of attitude in the '80s, especially with the rock bands. There was a lot of they were like gangs kind of, and it was like they would sort of shit talk each other a little bit and stuff, and in interviews and things, there was a lot of that rivalry kind of stuff going on. I don't know, just a lot of ego, I guess, was part of I guess maybe the image, or like you had to do that sort of a lot of times, I think. And we have to remember that it was less rock stars and they were massive. So, the kind of pressure that was on somebody like be it I don't know, like an Eddie Van Halen or, David Lee Roth, or one of these types of people, the type of being placed on that pedestal, like they'd get torn apart if they were, seen, out at the mall or outside the event, they'd just be mobbed, and like, that's got to be freaky. And so you maybe become a little more, I don't know, it's a little different now. It's just a different thing now. So, and maybe it's not as scary once you interact with people more, and it becomes part of and it becomes a thing. Like it's just, I don't know, like it'd be weird to have a big ego and be so, egoed out or whatever. If you were talking with people, like doing live streams or something, or like meeting people one-on-one, where you just can't do that. I don't know. Maybe it's just, things have just changed, I guess. Okay. What else we got here? Okay. Let's see. Have I ever thought about switching genres for more money, like doing hip hop or country? Hey, if music's good, I'll play. I played with all kinds of people. I played with everybody from Henley to Jewel to, with some pop artists. And then I've played rock with Chris Cornell, or, I've got no problem as long as the artist is talented and I like the music too, as long as I like it, like quite a bit, it's like, I would consider any kind of gig if it's, I got a pretty open mind when it comes to music. So, let's see, how about Miley Cyrus at the Cornell tribute, says Tom. Yeah, I mean, she was a different type artist for me to play with, for sure. She's just talented. She's an insane singer, that's really confident. And, she's a lot of growing pains going on there, I guess, like sort of, and but she's kind of punk rock in a way that she would just try anything, uh, I got a lot of respect for her, a lot of respect. Okay, I'm moving down to the bottom of the chat, kind of. I'm going to get down there. Oh, it's 108 already. This has gone kind of fast today. I'm having a good time, you guys. Thanks for being here. Geddy Lee is a true gentleman, says Gary. He seems very kind and approachable and stuff in every interview I've ever seen. Seems like a nice guy, like a thinking guy and kind of cool sense of humor and stuff. And it seems like a great. Yeah, Alex too. Alex is funny and weird. Weird in a great way. I don't mean in a weird way. Maybe weird in a weird way. But he's a riot, I think. So I like those Rush guys. Somebody says they're actually meeting Geddy on Wednesday. That's cool. Have a good time. Say hello from all of us. And he seems like a terrific guy. A Renaissance Man is saying, I wish Pete Thorn taught guitar lessons. He would be fun to learn from. Maybe at some point I'll do more Skype stuff. It's totally possible. I appreciate that you think I would be fun to learn from. I hope I would live up to your expectations. Chris says, met Satriani and Billy Sheehan way back when, and they were super nice guys. Yeah, I've met both those guys. Joe's kind of a quiet, seems like a really nice guy. When I met him, at least he was cool. Billy Sheehan, nice guy. I actually jammed. I think I played a Judas Priest song with Billy Sheehan. Yeah, at the Viper Room. We played "Breaking the Law." I remember that. That was cool. He's cool. Lynch is cool. He still goes for it every time. Totally. Yeah, he does. So sometimes he falls on his face, but when he hits it, he hits it. Man, he's great. I love George. He's just a sweet dude and funny and great tone. He loves talk about liking loud guitar amps. There ain't no compromise there. He likes good 100-watt Marshalls and Parks turned up. All right. Let's see. I really like the pickup switching options on your signature, but I'm curious how you'd configure a hum single hum, says Steve Kelly. I would just do the standard kind of like how everybody does it, which is like you full humbucking. Next switch would be the split coil in the middle. Next switch would be the middle. Next switch would be the middle and the split coil from the neck pickup, and the next switch all the way up would be the neck pickup humbucking. And then I would probably that's probably what I would do. And then I would probably have a series parallel switch, maybe for both pickups. It could be kind of cool. You could do that in the tone pot, where you could pull it up and then get kind of quasi like a thinner, a little more towards single coil, but not single coil sound, maybe out of both humbuckers if you were either on the neck or the bridge. That might be a cool setup, I would think. Yeah. Okay. What else we got here? Do you know the guitar player from I, Mother Earth? I don't think so. I don't think we've ever met. Yeah, I don't actually. Yeah, I was trying to remember if I met him one time or not, but I don't. I'm pretty sure I haven't. Yeah. I know the guitar player from Our Lady Peace. Original guitar player, Mike, great guy. He's a friend of mine, lives up in Toronto, owns a studio now and runs it up there. He's a cool guy. Loud Dog, I think is your name. Really cool to be able to interact with you, Pete. I get on here just to listen to your music stories. Thanks, man. I hope they're interesting. Sometimes I forget things and then you guys remind me and it's like, oh yeah, that happened. That's an interesting one. I don't know. It's fun to dig back through my mental memory bank. Anyone on Drupal yet? Pete is. Yeah, I'm on there. I signed up for a Drupal thing and I haven't even looked at it since I did that, actually. I'm not even actually, to be honest, I don't even really know what it is, but I signed up for it. Slash always comes across as a really down-to-earth guy. Yeah, I've met him a few times. I actually bumped into him literally in the hallway at the Rainbow. We ran into one another, and this was in 90. Guns N' Roses was like, and I ran into him and he was like, oh, sorry, man. He was very nice then. That's all he said, but he kind of bumped into me, and he was cool. And then I ended up playing with him years after that at a Music Cares benefit thing, and I went over to his house, and he was very nice, really nice guy. Have you tried the new Gibson Les Paul Standards? No, I know the ones you mean though, and they do look nice. They look pretty cool. Getting a little bit more towards just sort of standard solid guitars without robot tuners and all that business. I like that. We got arrested camping out at EVH's driveway in 91. He yelled dirty words at us, says Chris. Well, right. I mean, you might have had it coming. If you're camping out at some guy's driveway, he's like, shit, I just want to go out to go get some pizza or whatever. And you're at the bottom of his driveway. And now he's got to, right? That could be frustrating. I don't know. Anyways, okay. Moving down. I'm going to go soon because I'm getting hungry. It's time for lunch, just about. What's my favorite coffee? That's Renaissance Man. My favorite coffee these days, I kind of like dark coffee, but I do like Blue Bottle. It's pretty rocking. Pretty delicious. But I'm generally kind of a dark roast person. The main thing I'm digging these days is oat milk. If you guys haven't tried oat milk in your coffee, it's good. It's really good. It's better than cream, I think. It's just got this great flavor to it. So any good coffee with some like a oat milk latte or oat milk in an Americano that's of quality is nice. Okay. Pantera about says what Pete is saying about the 80s. I never really listened to Pantera that much. And then you guys made me think about it a little bit because somebody was asking me what I thought about Daryl's guitar playing, maybe compared to my own or something a few weeks ago. And I listened to it, and then I was pretty fascinated. Like I'd heard a few songs, but then I went and listened to Cowboys from Hell, like on a drive. It's great. It's kind of like this combination between Metallica and Van Halen. I don't know how else to describe it, but and his solos were, and Phil's an amazing singer. I know he's kind of a controversial guy, right? With like some, little sketchy bit going on there. We won't get into that, but what a singer! Like the vocals on that album are absolutely insane. Obviously heavily like sort of Hetfield, but then he can do other stuff. And the solos, the arc to the solos was so cool. Like he obviously wrote a lot of them and stuff, but they grab you and then you're in it and you pay attention, you really, I don't know. These solos took you on a cool ride. He's definitely a special guitar player. I didn't really listen to that like when it came out, to be honest, but I from the little that I heard, I was like, oh, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, I need to put some time into listening to this and get more into it. And then I was just doing other things and I never really did that much. But you mentioned a kid in a Hawaiian shirt playing in a club that blew you away, says Aaron's song, slightly out of tune. Oh, Derek Day. You're talking about Derek Day. Yeah. Look for Derek Day music on Instagram and stuff. He's amazing. He's great singer, great guitar player. And he's like 23 and he just has it all. He just totally got it. Do you know the final price of the PT15 amp, says Pedro? In the States, $26.99. So, yeah. $26.99. Eddie's out of here. Eddie Meeson, he says, adios, Pete, and all people. See you, Eddie. Take care, buddy. And what else we got here? How hard can you drive the stereo mix bus in Logic? I don't go over. That's from Duncan. I try and what I do is I try and sort of gain stage and get all my tracks so that it's peaking at like -3 with no limiter and compression and stuff like that. If you can do that, and then you got that little bit of headroom to, if you're doing some of your own sort of mastering or fake mastering or whatever, adding a multi-band compressor, you want to bump the level up a bit, and then you got a little bit of room to go there. But I try and not cram stuff into the bus too hard. Supposedly, though, if your bus is getting too crammed up with and starting to clip and stuff, you can just put a gain block in the master strip and just turn it down, because it's floating point or something like that. And as I understand it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt your audio to do that. So you can just gain it down with a gain block and bring things down a little bit, and then you'll have some headroom, and it should sound the same. I don't know. You guys might want to. I didn't notice any problems with it when I did it, and I do that sometimes if everything's just too hot, but I can't pull down my buses too much, because then there's all these other effects going on. I don't know, prescriptive effects to the, it's like where I'm driving the buses, with my tracks, and I got my drum subgroup and guitars, maybe I got a little compression going on or something. I don't want to pull down the tracks, because then I'll drive the compressors less hard, and that changes the sound, blah, blah, blah. Just put a gain block in the master output fader and just pull the gain down like 4 or 5 dB, and it's the quick fix, and it seems to sound fine. Personal question. How old are you? I'm not telling. I don't want to. You're like, you sound older, says Casper. Kind of sound like I'm from all your war stories. Yeah, I'm older than you. I don't want to tell you though. I hate it. I hate talking about it. You get over 40 or whatever, and you're just like, ugh, I don't want to think about this anymore. Just gonna like kind of tune out and forget about birthdays. Have you tried tone tubby speakers? I never have, actually. I like the sound I get from my Electro Voice and was thinking on a change. Yeah, I haven't tried tone tubbies. Mainly a Celestion guy, to be honest. Have you tried a Chopper T pickup? That would be a DiMarzio, right? I haven't. Have you used a JMP1 a little bit? JMP1 are the Marshall preamps from the 90s. Kind of cool. A lot of bands use JMP1s. Everybody from, I think, Def Leppard to ZZ Top to, Billy Gibbons, big JMP1 guy, I think, for his touring rigs. Coconut milk, for what it's worth, says Tom. I like coconut milk. I like oat milk more. Coconut milk was my jam for the last like 4 or 5 years, and then I tried oat milk, and I was like, oh, I think I found something to usurp the. Is that a word? To offset to. I found something that surpasses. Yeah. Pete mentioned the Doors. I used the Doors as kind of a negative example, didn't I? SD Design says the Doors were cool for sure. I used it as an example of cover bands playing too loud, and I didn't mean to do that. I don't mean to discount. I just mean when you hear a cover band just like blasting in the corner of a pub or something, and they're playing like. It could have been The Who, or it could have been, any band, the Rolling Stones, or just jamming loud on blues music or something. And just kind of like, you know what I'm talking about. The difference between seeing a band that's really stellar and actually moving people, and then one that's just playing loud, because they just play loud. Jimmy says $26.99 is pretty reasonable for the new amp. Yeah, it's just the thing about the amp is that, made in, I hate to keep harping on this, but when you make things in California these days, there's a combination of things going on with the cost of, healthcare and workers' comp, and obviously, paying people reasonable living wages and all that stuff, not to mention rent, or, the cost of a mortgage on a building, all the regulations that come into play. And then imagine what it costs to custom make 200 head shells, 200 face plates, 200 custom output transformers. I'm saying, like, if you're going to ramp up production and get ready for a run of like 200 amps, so you got to outlay all that cash. Not to mention the R&D that you paid your employee, like somebody like Kevin Sir, he's an electrical engineer. He went to college. He makes an appropriate wage for his education, and he spent a better part of a year, if not more, really, but on that amp only. So imagine that, like that. So you're putting in all this effort and time, to get, not only the layout of the amplifier, but how do you shrink the Sir reactive load into something that's going to fit into the amp and sound identical to the big one? How do you, implement an impulse response board and tie that all together with high gain amplifier stuff going on all around it, high gain and high voltage, and not have any bleed, crosstalk, grounding problems. Designing an amp, it's a huge thing. So you're outlaying all this cash and you're paying all these people and you've got this factory with these bills every month. CE approval. Not only that, when you've got an amplifier that's got impulse responses in it, now you need FCC kind of approval. That costs like $5,000, like to just go get the approval from it's a simple, you send them one and they test it and they charge you $5,000 to I mean, the cost of coming up with one of these things before you ever see any kind of it's this massive cash investment, and you have to factor all that stuff in when you're coming up with there was a bit of debate about that this week, on the I guess it was on the video that I put up of the Clean channel where a guy was saying, I'm an electrical engineer and this amp's too expensive. I could make one of these for cheaper. It's like, we're not talking about making one here in your garage and the cost of parts and labor. There's so much more involved to running a business, that just doesn't, it's not you making a one-off in your garage for one other person or two other people or five other people even. This is a different, coming up with something. And if you want to go out of business, you can charge, barely over what it costs you to make it, or a couple $100 or $100, but you're not factoring in then the dealer's markup. There's all these running a business is more than being an EE. It's, you got the engineer in there doing what he needs to do and coming up with the stuff, and then you got the business people that are saying okay, here's the thing, we can't, there's got to be some factor in of a lot of factoring in of what's this going to cost and how are we going to pay for it, or else you're going to go under and then your business is gone. So it's difficult. So I'm glad you say $26.99. If we started, doing stuffed boards from China, overseas, or Chinese transformers, having the amps largely built offshore and all that kind of stuff, head shells, the face plates, all that stuff. Yeah, you could bring the cost down, but that's not what we do, with this stuff. We're making amps in California. That's it. So it's a different thing, and I like that. I like knowing the people that build the thing, when you can walk out there and see the people and them on a first name basis, or, the folks that you design it with, and they're all, it's just cool. I don't know. It's not the cheapest way to do it, but not everything's about the cheapest way, is it? Max Webster, Kim Mitchell, discuss. Love him. One of the weirdest, so distinctly Canadian. I always think of them as sort of like I think of Max Webster as like the Canadian Frank Zappa. I don't know why, but they were just weird and quirky and cool. Not the same as Frank Zappa, but that anything goes, like prog, prog and weird and yet popular and just kind of really, really cool. Tom Mix is in the top chat. Thank you, Tom. And he says people also forgot about repairs and warranty costs. That's right. So you gotta account for those kinds of problems, repairs, warranty costs, things coming back to be fixed, and dealing with that, shipping and, all that stuff. It's true. Just dealer markup. This isn't something that you sell out of your garage to somebody direct. It's got to go to Peach Guitars in the UK. So you got to ship it there. And then they need to make some money, or Peach Guitars in the UK goes out of business. It's just, nobody's getting rich. People are just running a business, So, doing what you need to do to stay afloat. Things cost money, says Casper. That's right. It's true. Thank you for bringing it up too, Casper. I appreciate it. It's just good to say my piece about it. Yeah, I appreciate that. And you're saying John Sir is the best at what he does, and you'll pay him what he asks for his stuff. I agree, man. The guy's, he's 62 or 63, and he's worked his whole life making great things for people, and works his ass off still. Works a long day, goes in and sits there and fretting auras, banging in the frets and then scraping the binding, when you're 63, right? You did, I was doing this when I was 24. I'm still here scraping this binding. It's worth something at some point, I don't know. It's worth more at some point than maybe when you were 30, isn't it? Shouldn't it be? I don't know. So just checking out Derek Day at the Roxy. Exciting performer, good voice too, says Aaron Songs. I agree. I agree. That guy is good, man. He's cool. I turned Blue Saraceno on to him actually, and then Blues called him up and brought him in for a session. I don't know if it was for a commercial or something that he needed a rock singer for, but he said, "Who's that guy you were, talking about at the Roxy?" Because I think I took some videos. Oh, it was a Viper Room. I took some videos of him singing Sabbath or something one night, and Blues was like, "Who is that guy?" Like, and I put them together, and then they did some work together. So that was cool, I think. Anyways, what else we got here? I'm gonna go soon, guys. What are you guys talking about? You guys are talking about the guitar player in Big Wreck, who has, not Ian, it's his bandmate in Big Wreck that has cancer, and he's got a GoFundMe. Maybe somebody could find that really quick and post it here. It's a sad story. Let's just shift the whole conversation over to Big Wreck, says Timothy. Yeah. If anybody, wants to go and, check out his, I believe it's a GoFundMe page. They're dealing, it's a sad situation. The guy's not well. And, Big Wreck, a lot of us big fans of Big Wreck. And I just hate hearing about that, poor dude. It's him and his family are going through some stuff. So if anybody wants to go donate to that, I think it would be a great thing to do. It's not good. And I think at this point it's sort of, essentially towards taking care of, his family and their affairs and stuff like that. And I think it would be a great thing to go do. I'll go do it too after I get off of here. I pledge to go do that right now. What else? Completely forgot to say hello from Denmark, says Cafzilla. What's up, Denmark? We were talking about you guys over there a bit earlier. Great country. What delay pedal do I recommend with presets and tap tempo? Do you still use the DD500? I do right now. Yep, that's true. Keysman? Yeah. DD500 is really nice. The timeline's great too. Thinking about trying using a HX Stomp for a similar purpose. I love the sound of the Line 6 delays. Incidentally, Steve Stevens, if you go look at Steve's Instagram, he put up a photo today, I believe it was today, of his new rig, which is really cool. It's 2 pedal boards. It's a pedal board based rig, but he's got stuff running in the loops of his amps and a bunch of stuff in front. Dave Friedman just finished it. It has one of those really big, beautiful RJM foot controllers on it. And I got to go over and actually help him out a little bit with setting up the HX effects, which he's using, Line 6 HX effects. That's what he's using for his post path and delays and stuff. And he's very happy with it. And if he's happy with it, then I should be happy with it, right? So I'm thinking about adding that, for reverb, delay, and that kind of thing. So putting HX Stomp on my pedal board, I think that'll work great for my my needs. Okay, gonna jet soon. Get a jet soon. Somebody asked me a question. I missed it. Shit, I wanted to. There's a question about age, and sorry, I missed it. Now I've lost it in the chat about age and how it's affected my creative endeavors. I'm sorry, dude. I can't find it now. But ask again if you know what I'm talking about. It sounds familiar. Okay. It's really sad you have to raise money when you're seriously ill. I would agree with that. It is sad. And, Canada's got a pretty great healthcare system. But even then, when you're, not well and not working and stuff, there's other things that come into play besides just the healthcare, right? You're putting food on the table for your, wife and kids and stuff. If you get ill, I don't know if he has wife and kids. I'm not sure about that, but I'm just saying, those kinds of things, right, can be difficult. Let's see. Did you go with a bake neck on your red, sir? That's currently, yeah, it's gonna have a bake neck on the new one that's coming. Okay. Chris Cam posted I have to, because it's and Jennifer also posted I have to approve those because they've got web links in them. So there, I just posted them. You guys should see them in the chat there. And his name is Brian, right? Yeah, Brian Doherty. So you'll see those now in the close to the bottom of the chat there, the GoFundMe posts. I'm going to go there and do that. Poor dude could use our help, I think. So Riff Bandit says, any advice on right hand injury and things to do while my broken wrist is healing? Just take it easy, I guess. If you've got a broken wrist, I've had a friend with a broken wrist, and he kind of modified his cast so he could still hold a pick. He actually played live on tour like that, where he taped a pad to his cast, to his palm, so he could palm mute a little bit, and he just kind of got good at least playing basic stuff like that. But you might be able to ask your doctor or whoever does the cast if you can modify it a bit so that you can at least hold a guitar pick. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know what you've got going on, but best of luck to you with healing up. That's too bad. That's I guess it's better if it's your right wrist than your left, right? If your fingering hand is your left hand. But sorry to hear that. Okay. Keith also sent the GoFundMe there for Brian, the link to it. Let's see. You don't mind giving other people's age away, but not yours. Whose age did I give away? Did I give away somebody's age? I'm just being a wuss. You guys can figure out how old I am. It's not that hard. It's not 40 and it's not 50. It's somewhere in there. I just hate talking about it. It's just a personal thing. Sorry if I said somebody else's age when I shouldn't. Oh, you're right, John. I said John's age. I think he's cool with talking about it. I hope so. You're right. I did do that. Sorry, John. Sorry, everybody. Let's see. Have I been checking out Guthrie Trapp's YouTube channel? I have not actually seen that. Should I go see it? Is it cool? I know he's a monster. Speaking of Peach Guitars, says L. Scott Music, that interview was funny. You kept wanting to check out gear, and the guy was always hurrying to the next room. Yeah, I did a clinic there, and they took me through. It's an amazing store, really great store. If anybody's ever been to Peach in the UK, I'm sure you know. Yeah. All right, going all the way to the end here. This is the end for me as well. I'm going to get out of here and go do some work. John Sir is Yoda to guitar. I agree. He's the Grand Poobah. Papa Sir, I call him. Tell your Van Halen story, says Big Cur Rocks. I don't talk that much about Van Halen stuff. I just like to keep. He's a private guy. I like to keep that. And so we respect that. It's for the best. Let's see. Is revealing your age a professional liability? That's an interesting question. I don't think so, actually. I mean, not at this point, right? Difference doesn't make anymore, I don't think so. More like a personal thing. Like, I don't want to think about it, I guess there's some gigs where it'd be like, oh, we don't hire a guy that old, but or whatever, or that young. Could be the wrong thing. If you're in your early 20s and you're trying to play with older people, maybe they have a problem with it. How do you maintain your positivity, Slate Boy? That's a great question. That's the last one I'll take today, I guess. That's a really good question because it's a battle for just about anybody, I guess. I just still love music, and I'm generally a glass half full kind of person. And there's always people that, I'll tell you how. There's a guy on the side of the freeway when I drove here today. He's an old guy, and he has a sign. He's there every Sunday when I drive here, and he has he looks kind of like a cowboy or something. He's got kind of longer hair, and he's got a leather hat on. He's kind of a cool looking dude with a long leather coat. And he stands there on the side of the freeway with a sign that says, I need a job, and I don't know, man. Every time I drive by that guy, I just get I think about where he slept last night. How did he get there today? What did he eat this morning? And it's pretty tough to be not positive about whatever I got going on when I look at that guy, and you see a lot of that in LA, a lot of desperate people. And I think about that poor guy and how he got there, and it's, where's his family? Why has he got no help? So there's always that, and you don't have to look too much further than, I guess, the side of any freeway in LA to maybe feel like, man, I got nothing to bitch about. So it's honestly that, we all everybody gets caught up in their own shit sometimes. And, but everybody's got real problems and stuff, and it's on different levels all the time, but you only get one kick at the can, you might as well try and enjoy it as much as possible. And, I don't know, be as positive as possible. It's hard to get anything when you're in the dark space, it's hard to get anything good done. It's hard to accomplish anything. And I got things to do. I want to do things, you know, and I'm excited about it. A big part of it was just following what I love, which is simple and naive, but it was playing guitar, you know, it was, you know, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life and all that. I followed that. And even though it's tough at times, even on the tough days, I enjoy the work. Like I love coming here and doing this. I love coming here and talking about amps and guitars and pedals. And then I get to go and like plug them in now and play some music and maybe come up with something, you know? So on that, somebody else did the top chat and they just said, I keep my positivity because my best friend has stage 4 liver failure. That's Tom. Thanks for telling that story, Tom. It's and for doing the top chat. It's a terrible situation. Please say hi to your friend and that we're all, you know, I mean, I know that's brutal, you know, but that's it, man. And that could be me in 2 years, you know? So I want to have, you know, I hope it's not. I'm also a realist. I'm positive, but I'm not, I don't have my head in the clouds. That's for sure. You know, bad stuff happens to people every day. And so while I'm here, you know, it's like, and healthy and have the ability, I want to be in a good state of mind so that I can get as much done as possible. Cause you know, it's one day that train just stops for everybody. Everybody's the tragedy at the end. We're all tragedies at the end of the day. Right. So, you know, you got to stay in the light as much as possible while you have time. All right. I hope that you guys have a great week, and I will see you guys. Shauna says, love you, Pete. Thanks, Shauna Marie Sings. I appreciate that. I hope you guys have a terrific week, and you know, just have an awesome time out there. I've got a bunch of videos coming this week for different stuff. And I'm going to the Tolman Gear University. I just want to mention that. It's kind of similar to GitCon, similar thing, where I get to go make videos with a whole bunch of people. And that's pretty great. That's fun. I'm looking forward to that. Glenn Fricker, and who I think is a lot of fun and cool, and I love his perspective. And who else? Warren Hewitt, producer from Produce Like a Pro, is going to be there. Paul Davids, who I'm hopefully excited to meet and do something with. Gear Gods, Trey. You know, that should be a lot of fun. That's something to look forward to in June. That I got coming up. All right, everybody. You guys have a great week, and we'll see ya.